1 month ago, George Clooney was a featured star at a blockbuster fundraising event for Joe Biden. Now he's calling for him to exit the race. In an op-ed in the New York Times Wednesday, the Oscar-winning actor and director writes, "The party needs a new nominee in order to save democracy." Referring to the fundraising event, Clooney said the president, quote, wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate. Also on Wednesday, Congressman Pat Ryan of New York became the 8th Democratic lawmaker to publicly say Biden needs to step aside. And Michael Bennet of Colorado became the first Democratic senator to question Biden's candidacy, saying he could lose to Donald Trump in a, quote, landslide. This all comes as former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi appeared to suggest on MSNBC the president should reconsider his decision to stay in the race.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I think overwhelming support of the caucus. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore. But he's beloved. He is respected, and people want him to make that decision, not me.
Pelosi later told CBS News that her comments were misrepresented and that she fully supports whatever the president chooses to do. And here to weigh in on all of this is Susan Page. She's the Washington bureau chief at USA Today. Susan, thank you so much. I find myself again seeking your interpretation of the House Speaker Emeritus, Nancy Pelosi. She seemed to suggest that Biden still has a decision to make that he says is no decision at all because he's staying in the race. There's nothing to decide.
Yeah. So her cleanup did not vary from her original statement, which was to basically reject Biden's declaration over and over again that he's not going anywhere. So this is I think, subtle. But Nancy Pelosi, as you know, is a woman of great deliberation. She does not speak off the cuff. She does not typically make errors in talking to reporters. She knew what she was doing this morning. She was opening the door to Biden, saying there is still concern. We are not yet persuaded.
Yes, I know that very well as someone who's tried desperately to get her to speak off the cuff and failed. We mentioned 8 Democratic House lawmakers have called on Biden to exit the race. Minority Leader Jeffries is confirmed that he plans to convey the concerns of the caucus by Friday. Senate Democrats are going to meet with Biden folks in a caucus lunch on Thursday. What's your assessment of kind of where things stand with the chatter on the Hill, which is in a roar now that they're all back in town?
Yeah, rarely have we seen a bigger difference between what members of Congress are saying in public and what they are saying in private. You only have 8 members coming out and saying he should step down. You have a few more saying we're concerned about him. If you talk to them behind the scenes when their names are not being associated with their remarks, that concern, that feeling that Biden really should step back, as messy and unprecedented as that would be, is pretty wide. The level of concern among Democrats, not only that they're going to lose the White House to Donald Trump, but that they're going to lose control of the Senate and that they will not regain control of the House. It will be a catastrophic election year for Democrats with Biden at the top of the ticket. That is the view of a significant number of Democratic office holders.
And then finally, Susan, I just want to ask you about this, the George Clooney thing. So now Michael Douglas, who also held a fundraiser for Biden, is saying that the president is not fit. They would be examples of the elites that Biden has spent the beginning of this week criticizing. But isn't one of many of the fixes that the president is in here is that he needs those elites to raise lots and lots of money for him and the party? How do you see that tension? Yeah.
I mean, if you've lost George Clooney, how do you even move ahead? But, it's true. He's not an office holder. He's never run for office. He's a celebrity. That said, he hosted the biggest fundraising event in Democratic history for Biden just recently. And the most damaging thing, I think, could create a money crunch for Biden. But you read his op-ed in the New York Times, and he says that what he saw up close with Biden at the fundraiser was the Joe Biden we saw at the debate. And that is very worrisome because one of the things that's making Democrats unwilling to accept Biden's decision to stay on the ticket is that they continue to read stories and hear accounts about him being in fragile health behind the scenes as well as at that disastrous debate.
Susan Page, Washington bureau chief at USA Today. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you, John.